This week on The Riff, Martz and Drew sit down to talk about the 5 H's. Happy, healthy, honest. Actually, I don't know them, but I'm hopeful today will be helpful. Thanks for listening.
Good afternoon, Riff. Good morning. Good
Whatever
evening.
Time zone you may be in worldwide.
Wherever you're watching, however you're watching.
Global.
National. Yeah, global's as big as it gets.
Intergalactic.
Extraterrestrial.
Yeah,
wherever you're at. Thanks for listening. Hey, we're hopping into another episode of The Riff, and honestly, I don't even know what we're talking about. This is a scary moment for me.
This is when we're riffing. This is when we're truly riffing.
It is. And so we just hit record. We're with you. We're live. You did get a text message.
Yeah.
About 5 H's.
Yep.
And if you're listening to this and you're like, 5 H's, that doesn't even make any sense to me. What even is that? Don't you worry. Drew's going to explain all of it exquisitely.
Absolutely.
I'm so excited. Okay, which by the way, when you came on the team, you probably had a lot of, I'm still acting like you're new. I feel like you're not new anymore.
It's 2 months.
Yeah. You can still claim it. But
one person's been hired after me now so far.
Oh, so you're not even
I'm not even the newest member of staff.
Okay, perfect. When you came on staff, there's probably a lot of things you thought or assumed, or maybe like I have no assumptions and I'm learning everything for the first time.
Yeah.
One of the things that we have that wasn't even really in your onboarding, but we utilize as a staff is something called the 5 H's. And this is something where if you want to be on staff at Northpoint, we would say, hey, we want you to have these 5 H's, these attributes and qualities about you. Now, they're kind of subjective, if I'm being honest.
They are.
So one person could really think that they have them and they don't. I don't know. But walk me through that. You liked them.
Yeah.
You're not giving me a lot right now. You're yesing, you're knowing like, oh, so are you even jazzed about it? Should we talk about something else?
No, I'm jazzed. Okay. I'm jazzed. I'm learning to say less and listen more. That's what I'm doing.
Oh, did Kristen tell you that or what?
No, I'm trying to be coachable. A lot of times I get excited and I interrupt people.
You know what I think? That's pretty humble of you.
I'm a chronic interrupter. It's not a good trait of mine. Uh-oh. I just get excited. I'm like, oh yeah, and then we can do this, and then we can do that, right? And then someone's like mid-idea, and I like their idea, and I immediately hijack it and start talking about what I think about their idea, and I don't let them finish what they're saying. So it's not a good trait.
I actually like that, though.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, because we're riffing.
It depends on who you're with, I guess.
Yeah, but if someone's like thoughtful communicator and really like thinking through it, it's like super annoying. So anyway, but I'm learning that about myself, and that's one of the ways I'm growing. We can all grow. 5 H's, yes. So coming in, and I didn't invent the 5 H's. You invented a lot of the 5 H's.
I didn't.
Jeremy?
I think it was written on a tablet a long time ago.
It was. We found it in the side of a mountain.
Absolutely. There was actually 7,
Brother
but
Johnson.
We condensed it down to 5. We just thought these 5 really...
These last 2 are not culturally relevant anymore.
Not anymore.
That wasn't what it originally meant. Yeah, 5 H's. So it is kind of a cultural statement. So we talk about it like as, to be on the staff, you got to have these 5 H's. And this is what we're hiring for, is what we're looking for, is what we're going to be cultivating to create a good team environment. So 5 H's: humble, hungry, hustle, hopeful, helpful.
Nailed it.
So we kind of cruised through those last episode, and I got a couple messages, hey, what were those again? And so the concept on these is not like these 5 words are magic or they all start with H's, that it helps them to be memorable.
They do just so happen to start with H's, though. Yeah,
they do. I would say no matter where you're working or what you're doing, if you're leading anything, having I call it like the Mr. Potato Head person you're trying to build, or the Build-A-Bear workshop leader you're trying to build. It's like, hey, what are the qualities you want in somebody? And like, hey, I want them to have eyes like this and a hat like this. And a lot of times what happens is when an organization doesn't define what they want, they have a bunch of Frankenstein leaders walking around. They're like, well, I kind of read this book one time, and I worked for this manager one time who did this, and I kind of got this. And it's all good stuff. There's nothing wrong with a lot of those things, but if you can actually thoughtfully define what do you want in a leader, like what do you want in a team, it actually helps people put handles on it to where I can work towards that. It helps leaders have honest conversations with people. It helps us really define what is the Build-A-Bear template that we're trying to build. Like I think about leadership development, if you're trying to instill basic qualities or principles inside of a team, so that at the end, after someone works somewhere for a while, they should be more this will sound weird, but like on brand. It's like, oh, they're that type of leader. Like they fit our system. Like, because when you can do that, you kind of have, if you've ever been like in a good sports team, there's some shorthand things where people just know what you know. Like if you're a football fan, it takes a while for a quarterback to learn the system or learn what the coach wants because they use different shorthand, they use different situational things. And it's like, you ever been on a team where it's like, where it's so good, you can just kind of look at someone, give them a look and they know what you're going to say and they just run and go. It just creates a cohesion within the team when you've thoughtfully like laid out what it is you're actually trying to build. So if you're building any kind of business or team, whether that's your, a fourth grade soccer team or, a global enterprise.
Marching band for me.
Marching band.
Very similar. We just look at each other and be like, yeah, we know.
Were you in marching band?
I was.
What'd you play?
What do you think I played?
Yeah, you look like a drummer.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's a compliment.
Yeah.
Flute.
Flute?
No, I was kidding. I played trombone.
Trombone.
Yeah.
All right. You still have a trombone?
Absolutely.
Do you sort of break it out at home every now and then?
Mel gets pretty annoyed when I do, but yeah, it's once every probably 2 years.
Yeah.
That's about how much she can stand it.
Yeah, that's allowed. That's allowed.
I keep it around in case Beckham wants to play or Sloan, one day.
If they want to follow in your footsteps.
Yeah, then I don't have to buy a $600 instrument. I've got one, even though it probably won't work by then.
I just want to see Martz playing a trombone.
Hey, it's happened.
It's got to make a sermon illustration.
It's absolutely happened.
Yeah.
Well, if that happens, people would have to pay. I mean, obviously, I don't play for free.
Yeah. No.
So
no.
And just when you're good at something, you don't do it for free.
Good. No, exactly. Not
But-
pearls before swine.
Of course,
That doesn't
even if it's
apply.
forgot. I mean, I don't know. So I don't know what that is. But
So yeah, 5 H's. Yeah.
I think you nailed it, though. People
Yeah.
don't. People do not come into a culture, business, industry, whatever, and they don't have bad intentions. I don't think.
You're right.
Right. It's just like if they don't know where they're going,
Mm-hmm.
they will go a direction.
Yes.
And that's not bad. That is just what you said. It's, a past leader led me this way. Here's a book I read. Inevitably, if you do not set the direction that you want people to head, they'll head a direction, and then you have to get them back on course, and that's fine. But having these from the forefront of saying, hey, here's what we're looking for in a staffer. Let's take North Point in a staffer. Here's what we're looking for. Can be helpful. So walk me through. What's the first one?
First one is humble. So humble is, it's not that definition, but it's not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. It's a underlying thing that says, you know what? It's actually not about me. The team's not about me. This decision's not about me. The result's not about making my name more important or better. If you have a team full of humble people, we were just talking before this started about a meeting we were in where it's like, hey, is the best idea winning? Or is it the loudest voice that's winning? Because in a lot of teams, it's the loudest, most obnoxious voice that ends up getting to make the decision for what we're going to do. Because everyone low key knows that if we don't do what John wants, he's going to make a big deal about it and make our life difficult for the next 3 weeks. He's going to be talking about, well, if we would have done it my way, or, he's going to, it's either
this is why it didn't work.
Yes, because what they're really trying to do is make it about them. And they're looking for validation in their work. A lot of times the person you work with that doesn't have true humility, what they have is like, it's low key pride and arrogance, but a lot of times what it really is insecurity as well.
Absolutely.
It's like, I want my idea to win. I want to make sure that I'm viewed as the smartest person in the room.
I want my idea to win, and I also kind of want you to like credit me every time that idea gets used, because like I'm the one who came up with that.
Yeah, and so they're always needing more affirmation from the leader, from the team, like, oh, you're so great, you're so good, and it's like they're looking to have their insecurities fed through trying to be the winning idea at work every time, or trying to be the best. So you start to get competitiveness. So you start to have between two coworkers or teammates where there's a competitiveness. It's not helpful for the team. It is like trying to flex that when that person gets into a leadership role. Normally they're trying to flex their title on other people, or just low key pull rank to be like, hey, well, it's my decision. I'm making it. Here's what we're doing. And so they tend to shut other ideas down around them. So people aren't actually bringing their best selves or their fullest ideas to the table, because ultimately I know that if, John's my boss, it's like, well, it's going to go his way either way. So, and I don't want to say anything that he might not agree with, because, you just have in the marketplace, like corporate America, things are full of arrogant leaders that they're either truly arrogant or they're just like insecure. And so it's like they have to have this thing. And it's humility truly is just like, hey, this thing that it's not about me. I really want the team to win. And if no one ever knows that it was my idea, I actually don't care. Like my identity, my security comes from something else. And obviously for us, we'd say, hey, your identity comes from God, and what, who you are in Christ is the main thing about you, not how good you are at your job or how successful you can be. And so when you really identify with that, it's like, hey, I used to have a saying at my old site. We just called it our site where we were running. I just said site over self, and it's like we just had an agreement that like, hey, we're not going to be about self. We're going to be what's best for the team. And when the team wins, we all win. And if your idea, honestly, like if your ideas are that good and and if you're actually that good at something, other people will say it. You shouldn't have to actually, you don't need to read your own press headlines.
People will say it and you don't even need them to, too.
Right.
I mean, it's nice when they do, but at the same time, you're like, yeah, I actually do this because I believe it. And I like, even when it comes to, let's take North Point, all of us are working toward a mission. That's what's important. Is like the mission. So what I'm willing to do is lay down my preferences and my thoughts, and I want to utilize my abilities and my passions. Yes, and my skill set. At the same time, I'm willing to lay down my thoughts and my sometimes feelings, right?
Yeah.
To be able to say, hey, this mission is bigger than that. This mission is so important that the best idea has to win.
Yeah.
Right. Because if this is helping people find and follow Jesus, we have to do it. And it's worth a try. And it's not just worth a try. It's worth actually, I say, repping it. Right. Which is one, the R is repeating it. The E is explaining it. And then the P is, I'm not even going to repeat it and explain it. I'm also going to promote it. Even if it wasn't my idea, I'm going to rep that.
I think that even what you just said is because that was a phrase I didn't know until I came on staff. But North Point was like, hey, we're going to rep this, we're going to rep that. I just thought it meant like represent, And
it does.
But kind of does. But that's an ism that, comes from the team. So I think that's another one too. When you're in a group decision making, it's very rare you're going to get in a room with a bunch of high powered leaders and all 5 of you are going to be like, yeah, that's exactly what we should do. Normally there's competing ideas.
You probably didn't need a meeting for that. You probably needed an email then. Yeah, yes, if that's the case.
Exactly. And so you're going to have dissent within the team, but to be able to to disagree behind closed doors. And then once you make an agreement or you're like, hey, here's what we're going to do, that's when humility comes in. And then you all 5 go out and say, hey, this is what we're doing. And you're not going to be like, well, hey, here's what we're doing, guys. Honestly, I wasn't in on this, but John's the boss. It's what he wants to do. So we just got to do it, guys. We've all worked for that manager who, they don't even believe in the thing they're actually asking you to do. And it creates a cancer in a team, and it's like you're like, it's just not good. So that rep thing, take a second and break that down more, because that's something that the team here knows to do. It's like, hey, we're going to rep this. Once a decision is made, you kind of flew through it, but break it down a little more.
Yeah, I think so. The R is repeat it. That's the first level of being able to, like, if you walked out of a meeting and you're like, I don't know if that's a good idea, but like, okay, we're going for it. We're trying it. I can repeat the idea. If I've got to go back to the team that I lead and say, hey, here's the idea, guys, we're all doing this next weekend. So that's the plan.
Yeah.
That would be, hey, you can repeat it. That's awesome. People heard about it. Cool. The next level would be to repeat and explain it. Say, hey, here's what we're doing. And even how you explain it matters. But I could just very easily be like, well, this is what Drew wanted to do. And here's why Drew wanted to do it. It's like, well, like, cool.
Yeah.
All right. I maybe I should just hear that from Drew. It doesn't seem like you're too stoked about it. Right. But then to repeat it, explain it, and explain it. And hey, here's all the pros and cons. Here's what we wrestled with in the meeting. Here's where we landed, and then here's why, right? To be able to promote it and be like, here's what I see. I just imagine, if we're saying one thing we've got coming up that's unique is we're going to do baptisms on Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm dropping it.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'm supposed to say that.
Yeah.
We're doing it because, and hold on, there's a lot of reasons why, but also there's a lot of reasons why we shouldn't.
Yeah.
We don't have the building space. It's going to be crazy and chaotic. We are going to have to change our systems and processes to be able to do it. We still want to make sure that this is an enjoyable experience. There are so many reasons why we shouldn't do this and why we wouldn't do this. Okay. And so we could be in a meeting and be like, I think this might be a bad idea.
Right.
And honestly, my first initial thought was, I think this might be a bad idea. I think I might have even said it. Yeah. All right. And so hold on, maybe I'm not repping it right now, but
no, it's fine.
Coming out of the meeting though, I'm like, one, it isn't enough for me to just let my team know, hey guys, we're doing baptisms on Easter. And it's not enough for me to be like, hey, here's the plan. We really wrestled with this. We all decided like this, we'll figure it out. I don't know how, but it'll be okay. There has to be that next level to say, what does it look like to promote this? What does it look like? Okay, guys, I just want you to imagine this. All right. Like baptisms on Easter. And I know that's crazy. I know you got lots of questions. We will talk through it. We will figure it out. But bottom line is this. How crazy would it be someone a year from now looking back on their Easter pictures of 2026 with wet, messy hair and a towel around them? And that was their professional Easter photo, and it's a reminder, it's a spiritual marker moment in their life of when they decided to surrender to God and say, God, I want you to be the leader of my life. How significant would that be on a significant weekend in church history of Easter?
Yeah.
Like that represents so much spiritually. It can also represent so much physically on that date. Like, why wouldn't we do that? Why wouldn't Easter be about baptism, new life, surrendering your life to God instead of the Easter Bunny? And I'm not against the Easter Bunny. I'm not an anti-Easter Bunny guy. I'm like, I love the Easter Bunny. Great dude. Okay. Yeah. I've heard. I've never met him.
Yeah.
But I'm like, in candy and chocolate and dressing up, I'm like, totally. But that's not actually what Easter is about. And how cool would it be to come out and be like, this is what it's about, and not to be different or what,
right.
and not to be difficult of like, we just want to throw a crazy weekend together with our, like, that's not the goal at all. The goal is to say, if you're ready to take that next step, we're ready for you right now. How cool is that? Now, again, in my head, there are things where I'm like, logistically, I don't know how we're going to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm also like, will people want to do that? Probably some people. If we asked, you've done a lot of church strategy. If we asked the church strategist, hey, if this is a good idea, they'd be like, no, I think you should do it a different weekend. And we're like, totally.
Yeah. Some would.
Some would.
Yeah. I think it's like just going through that process, right? That rep, and repeat, explain, promote. When you're in a leadership team, if you can do those things with your team and driving that, if you want to push an organizational change out to get your whole team on board with something, you need every leader being able to do that. And so we teach that concept of rep it, but we also will role play, hey, how would you repeat this? How would you explain it? How would you promote it? And getting the decision makers and key influencers on your team to be able to truly understand that and have that conversation with each other first. Okay, yep, I got it. I can go do those things. It's a game changer. And I think on the Easter thing, we were just in a meeting and it was someone's idea and we went through the pros and cons and we're like, well, yeah, that might cause traffic problems, but what better reason to have traffic problems than people, making a decision to get baptized? And that idea of every time I come to Easter, I just don't think about that. To your point, I remember that's when I made a decision. I was baptized on Easter Sunday to know that going forward, we're opening the door for someone to have a powerful story and life testimony story of yeah, I remember and I know. So I think, the ability to rep it takes humility, because that's the thing too, is in that meeting, I remember that meeting, someone had the idea and half the room was yeah. And
I think I was one of them that immediately shut it down and be like, guys, well, we have to change all of our systems and processes.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, honestly, that's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we could do that.
And I think that's where it's so anytime the humility moment in that is, if you're truly going to rep something that wasn't your idea, and maybe let's be honest, you weren't on board with it in the beginning, to be a leader is not about making your agenda the most important thing. Leading is truly, it takes humility, because if you're going to be, unless you're in a dictatorship, or a kingdom where you get your decrees go across the land, you actually need consensus and you need people to implement the thing. And so you really do have to have a humility that says, it doesn't have to be my idea for me to run with it. I really can actually jump on board with this, and then have the curiosity to say, well, if this doesn't work and we see the 5 cons that I called out in the beginning, to have the ability to humbly come back after the post-mortem of the event.
I've already got the email ready.
Yeah. And say, hey, here's the things I said wouldn't work well and they didn't. But again, if you have a team full of humble people, everyone's leaning into that conversation to say, yeah, we thought this would work and it didn't. Or we thought this was a good idea and it totally tanked. What can we learn for it? And so the ability for a team to have humility once you have humility across a team, you can really have a lot of open conversations. You're not worried about stepping on toes. Who do we have to bubble wrap this conversation for? Because we know that they can't handle it, Truly, humble people and a humble team opens a door for the best idea winning. It opens a door for honest conversations about what worked and what didn't. If I did something that didn't work, I even had I got an email from someone this week where it was like I said something and it made them feel a certain way in one of my messages, and I didn't mean to, and I went back and listened to it, and I'm like, oh, okay. Now my first thought was like, oh, thanks for the feedback. My first thought was like, oh, come on, like get over it, right? But to go back and read it, I'm like, no, I gotta be humble and say, even though I may not necessarily agree with this, can I learn from it? Like I do want to be open to understand, oh, it did make someone feel that way, and so I do have to be accountable to the impact. It takes a humble leader to say, yeah, I still maybe don't agree with it, but I want to learn from it. I want to get better from it. And if feedback and ideas can come from any level in the organization because you have a humble leadership team who genuinely wants to know and get better, like you can be an unstoppable organization. I think whoever's closest to the customer in the front line of what's happening normally has the best ideas of what we ought to go do about it, right? So for me, even on campuses, every time I can on Sundays, I tend to want to sneak back and go into like the kids area. Like I want to understand what is the parent experience? What is the kid experience? Because Sundays, like I'm in the main auditorium. I feel like I have a good grip on what we're doing for adults, on a Sunday morning. But I'm like, hey, what does a check-in process look like for kids? Like, what does a parking lot experience look like? All of those things matter. And so anyway, for me, that's why I'm always asking our youth workers and our kids staff, and even like our production teams, like, hey, what are you seeing? What are you hearing? And I actually want to know. And when you create that, set an example of what humility looks like in leadership to say, hey, I don't have all the answers. I'm going to get the best answers by listening to the most people. You actually create an environment where everyone now realize you're setting an example and a tone within the team of this is how we think about things. And you do need leadership. Someone's got to make a decision to make it clear. But even in those meetings where we make a decision and you don't have consensus, but you have to make a decision, you make a decision and then you make sure everyone can rep it and say, hey, here's where we're going. Here's why. And side over self, like mission over self, and it's truly actually not about me. And the sooner you can get that, if there's someone listening to this who's a young professional and you're building your career, the sooner you can make it not about you, the better. Whatever organization you're in, because if it's not about you, it's about certain things. This is an unpopular opinion. I think you should always be trying to make your leader look good. And I'm not, and now that I know that I am a leader, it's like, okay.
Is it an unpopular opinion because you are the leader and you're saying it? Okay.
Yeah. That's why it's unpopular. But my whole career, I just tried to figure out what was keeping my boss up at night and take it off their plate and be like, hey, what is stressing them out? Like, how can I make them look good? The other person I tried to make look good was my team. I used to have this, at T-Mobile, I would have our CEO, he was wild, but he would fly in and come visit like our sites. And so that's a super nerve-wracking thing when the CEO of the company, a multi-billion-dollar Fortune 50 company flies on his jet and comes in to come see your team and your site. Like if things aren't good, like you're done. I mean, it is a high stress, high stakes situation when they're walking the halls of your building. And for me, it was, I used to get nervous about it, but what my leader told me, hey, you'll never look bad making your team look good. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, if you're looking for conversation with that leader, always talk about your team. Hey, let me tell you about this person. Let me tell you about what they're doing. Let me tell you about this person. And like, if you just brag on your team and brag on your people, you will never look bad doing that when you're making it about other people. And when you have a genuine attitude and heart to serve your leader, especially with like young people today, there's a lot of distrust in leadership for good reason. You're trying to, you create this adversarial relationship in a workplace or a team between the players and the coach or the team and the boss. It's like, I wouldn't do that. Figure out what's keeping your boss up at night and make that problem go away. And like, how do you serve them? Because God will teach you something in that serving that will help you the rest of your life. And even if what they want to do isn't what you would do, like if you work at a coffee shop and your boss wants to, do some crazy thing, like we're going to start serving tea and coffee. And you're like, that's going to double my workload, but it's like, all right, run with that idea, go serve it. And like, if it doesn't work, then you learn some valuable leadership lessons on their dime, and you can learn a lot from serving somebody else. Like Joseph in Potiphar's house is a whole thing where it's like, man, I could serve someone else. It's not about me, and do what I can to make them look good and then make my team look good. And if you have that humble attitude of like serving your leader, serving your team, then it's like, man, you learn a ton. You'll be wildly impactful and you'd be surprised the difference it makes. Like most people don't work for that person, but everyone wants to work for that person. So anyway, I'm ranting, but like the humility thing, like that's the type of thing we're looking for in team. That's a thing, even practically, if you run an organization, like have it in your hiring process, have your interview questions. How do I know if this person's going to fit with the team? One, you've clearly defined it. With us, it's the 5 H's, starting with humility. And then in your interview process, ask questions targeted to help them to understand, do they understand what that means? And then can they give you examples of times they've lived it out? You want to hire for it, that they have the basics in this thing, but then you want to intentionally cultivate it over time within the team as well. So that over time, the longer someone works with you and for you, they start to low key turn on to your brand of leader because you've defined what it is it looks like to begin with. So,
that's spot on. And having humility is not, hey, if you have something in your gut, you can't go with it. But
Yeah.
I do think it's important to say, hey, everyone gets a voice. Maybe not everyone gets a vote. Like and it's not, but I don't want this to be a dictatorship. And I also don't want it to be a democracy of like, hey, how many with 4 versus 3? Okay. Like you are going to make the call as a leader. And at the same time, it's like, but I would be doing a disservice if I didn't get everyone's voice because everyone's voice will make us like, then the best decision will come to the table.
Yeah.
So,
and if you can give credit for the idea to someone else,
totally,
always do it.
Absolutely.
You know, even if it was your idea and you're validating it and someone like put it in different words and then you go and it's successful, guess whose idea it was? Not yours. It was theirs. And then, you know what I mean? It's like constantly be giving out credit to your team. Like those are the things that like, because again, it's not about you. And then when you get negative feedback and criticism and cynicism, it actually doesn't, as a leader, it doesn't destroy you because you're like, it's actually not about me anyway. So that's okay. You know, if I'm not their cup of tea or if whatever, like, because leaders always, being in leadership, you're living in a fishbowl and you'll always take criticism from people. That just is what it is. Like people, you'll get talked about, you'll get evaluated. And if you're a prideful person, it will really bother you that that's happening. Mm-hmm. If you're a humble person, it's like, well, that's okay. They don't have to love me, and that, you know, I'm gonna do my best to do what I believe God's calling me into, and I prayerfully think through decisions and listen to the team and go. But you kind of get bulletproof skin a little bit. I'm like, okay, like it's actually not about you. Someone who's not humble, as in a leadership role, will get derailed by criticism. They'll get in the dumps about every person, like every negative feedback review, you know, every mean Facebook comment. It'll just be like, oh, you know, they'll go into fight or flight mode.
Personal. Yeah.
They either flight, you know, and run from it, or they fight it, and then all of a sudden they're blowing up over something that not necessary. That's normally pride. Humility says it's actually not about me, so that's okay. You know, I'm actually totally unbothered by the criticism of people.
Well, you've never gotten any criticism at North Point, though.
None.
Perfect.
None. Not yet.
Just imagine.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay.
It took about 3 weeks.
Okay. You mentioned something. I don't think we've talked about this. It was new to me, at least. You said, I want a leader with thick skin and a soft heart.
Yep.
I don't know if we have time for it, but let's hit it. This honestly, I've thought about multiple times since you kind of like mentioned it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what a good... All right, tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I think humility like leads into this one, but the ism for me, like the thing that's always stuck with me, and I don't even know where I got it from, but great leaders have thick skin and a soft heart. The problem is too many leaders have thin skin and a hard heart. And this probably is a whole nother episode for another day. But the high level is thick skin means you have thick skin. So any example I use is, you know, the camels. They have, you know, they take these long journeys through the Sahara Desert, and the sand temperature is, you know, 120 degrees, and there's no water sources, but they've got to carry these loads through the desert. And so they stop and rest. They kind of rest down on like their knees and elbows. We talked about, is it a knee or an elbow? I don't know. Do camels have knees?
It's weird.
Discuss
I don't know what it
yourselves.
is.
But like they're able to rest in the heat. But like the reason they can do it, their skin touches that hot sand. They have such a thick skin on their things that they can actually find rest in the heat. You know, and so if you're going to be a leader, you're going to take a lot of heat, and so you've got to be able to sleep at night. You got to find rest. You have to have thick skin because you will be the object of a lot of people's conversation and criticism. And the higher you go up in leadership, the harder it gets because. The worst decisions always filter up the organizational ladder. If there's, you know, the 90-10 decisions where by doing it, like 90% of the people are going to be happy. You're like, hey, should we give away free ice cream? The first leader that can make that decision in an org's like, yeah, let's do it. Because yes, everyone's happy. But as decisions get harder, the 60-40s, the 50, you know, the 50-50s, where man, no matter, and every leader listening knows this, the decision you make, no matter what you do, 50% of the people are not going to be happy. But there's a fork in the road and someone has to make the decision. That decision always gets delegated up. I don't know, let me go check with the boss. Let me go check with my boss. So that works its way up the chart, and then you got to make a decision that 50% of the people don't like. So then you, one, better rep it. 2, you better have some humility and listen to get great counsel. But then 3, you better have some thick skin because people aren't going to like you for it. Mm-hmm. And so I had a leader once. He was like, "Hey, my job's not to make everybody happy. If you want to hire someone to make everyone happy, hire a clown." But I got hired to be a leader, And so leaders got to make decisions. You do. So in that, you got to have thick skin, but maintain a soft heart, which is a sensitivity towards people, a thoughtfulness towards people, an understanding of the people who are going to be negatively impacted by the decision, a really thoughtful, prayerful, understanding of that, and a sensitivity to the criticism. When people are going to criticize you, listen to it. You have to have thick skin, but the soft heart says, I still want to hear it. I want to understand how that impacted you. I want to understand, even though I might not agree with where you're coming from, or fundamentally it's not going to change my mind, I do want to know what's it like to be you. And a good leader always has a soft heart and thick skin, but most leaders in time become the inverse of that. They're thin-skinned, which means, and everyone's worked for this leader, the vibe in the office is good. The boss walks in, everyone takes a breath because we don't know what kind of mood they're in today. That's a thin-skinned leader that, did I offend you? I'm sorry I did that. My birthday was on Monday and I was in a couple meetings. I'm not a big celebrate my own birthday guy. But then later some people apologized. They didn't know, man, I'm so sorry. I saw you, didn't tell you it was your birthday. And it's if I was a thin-skinned leader, I'd be like, they didn't know. They didn't find out on their own. This is my birthday. They didn't say anything. Right? But there's some people that were I could tell even the way they were saying that. I'm like, they've worked for a thin-skinned leader before. Mm-hmm. Because in some organizations, that would be a big deal because now I got to get back on the boss's good side. That's a super thin-skinned leader who, that you're always on eggshells dancing around what do they think? What do they want? And that is a tough thing. And then they get hard-hearted because as a leader, you're always working with people and problems. You can get a calloused heart towards people and just be like, again, come on, get over it, where you actually become insensitive towards people and thin skin towards yourself. So that's a whole nother thing for another day. But that whole thing, and the root of that deal is humility. When it's not about me, I can take the heat, I can take the criticism and still sleep at night because I know who I am in Christ and it's actually not about me. So that's okay. And I can still have a humility that says I still want to learn and grow and stay connected to the heart of people. That it requires a level of humility and strength to grow in that way. But a lot of times when you're dealing with people and problems day over day over day, it's like people who work in first responders, like police officers. They can easily think all humanity is messed up because all they deal with every day are problems. It's oh man, everyone's like this. World's full of crime, world's full of this and that. And it's no, that's actually what you deal with all day, mm-hmm. but it doesn't define the world. As you grow into leaders, it's similar. You're not a first responder physically, but you are one emotionally, spiritually, mentally, psychologically. You end up in a lot of people's problems, and then you start to think that everyone is just a pile of problems. And then you become hard-hearted. And so every leader, whether you're in ministry or in any kind of organization, strive for that humble heart that says, hey, at the end of the day, it's not about me. And then as you grow, realize what you're doing when you're signing on the line to be a leader, and then strive to continue to grow thicker skin and a softer heart in time.
Yeah. And I don't think this is just a leadership thing. I mean, this is a marriage principle. This is a parenting principle. This is a financial, this applies to almost every area of life. And how great would it be to have a spouse that's, thick skin, soft heart? How great would it be to be, as a kid talking to, their parent, and their parent is someone who's very understanding, that's got thick skin. You can say, I know you didn't mean that. Okay.
Yep.
But they've got a soft heart and they can see that kid, see the compassion for the situation that they're in or the problem they're facing. I mean, that is if you've got that, you don't have to have a Fortune 500 company and be a, C-level leader to demonstrate this. This is something you can take to your home right now and utilize. And I just think what a blessing that would be in whatever capacity you're in. That's going to be a blessing for you, and it's going to be a blessing for those around you. So that's 5H, number 1, humble. 1 down, 4 to go. Riff Raff, we love you. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Riff. We'll have a brand new episode every week, wherever you find podcasts.